Solitude and growth after 60. 7 benefits of living alone for women. Have you ever noticed how some older women radiate a unique sense of peace and quiet strength, even when they live by themselves? As we navigate later life, the thought of living alone might bring up worries about isolation or boredom. Yet for many older women, the reality is quite different. In fact, living solo can become one of the most liberating, empowering, and profoundly healing experiences of your later years. This video is specifically for you if you're a woman in your 50s, 60s, 70s, or beyond, and you've either chosen the path of living independently or are thinking about it. We're going to explore 7 powerful benefits that reveal why living alone, especially in your golden years, can introduce more clarity, control, and sheer joy into your life. Each point we discuss goes deeper than just surface-level independence. We're talking about genuine peace of mind, remarkable personal growth, and even a newfound confidence that blossoms from truly knowing yourself, without needing anyone else's validation. If you've ever felt too old to shift your lifestyle or worried that living alone means letting go of something vital, you might just find the opposite to be true. This discussion could help you see living alone not as a limitation, but as the beginning of a vibrant new chapter. Stay with us until the end, because you'll discover how being on your own in your later years can not only boost your self-assurance but fundamentally transform how you view aging itself. And if you haven't subscribed to Meaningful Living yet, I highly recommend you do, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of our insightful videos. Now let's dive into the first benefit. Freedom of routine. One of the first and most apparent benefits of living alone as an older woman is the complete freedom over your daily routine. When no one else shares your space, you no longer have to negotiate meal times, sleep schedules, TV volume, or when the lights go out. You can wake up when your body naturally wants to, take your time in the mornings, and structure your day exactly as you see fit. This freedom might seem minor, but over time, it adds up to a deep sense of satisfaction. Many older women have spent decades living on someone else's schedule, whether raising children, managing a household, working outside the home, or trying to be considerate of a partner's preferences. But now, perhaps for the first time in many years, you can truly center your life around your own rhythm. This liberty allows your body and mind to settle into what feels natural. Perhaps your most productive hours are at dawn, or maybe you find a burst of energy late at night when the world outside quietens. Living alone means you can follow that internal clock without guilt or interference. For instance, Eleanor, a 72-year-old retired teacher from Seattle, used to wake up at 5:30 a.m. every day out of habit, even years into retirement. But once she started living alone, she realized she didn't actually like mornings. Now she sleeps until 8 a.m., slowly sips her tea, and reads by the window until the sun is fully up. She's never felt more rested. It's not about becoming lazy or undisciplined. In fact, many women find that once they're no longer trying to conform to someone else's pace, they actually become more consistent and focused. The freedom of solo living helps restore a sense of internal balance that was hard to maintain in shared living. And it's not just about the big routines but the little things too. Play your favorite music without compromise, eat your favorite meals when you crave them, or watch old movies or documentary series without explaining your choices. There's a subtle feeling that everything in your home is finally yours. Even household chores become more peaceful. There's no pressure to meet someone else's standards. You decide how clean the kitchen needs to be, how the garden should look, and how your home smells and feels. It's no longer a negotiation. It's your reflection. And perhaps most importantly, living alone gives you the time and space to check in with yourself throughout the day. How am I feeling? What do I need? What will make today meaningful? You don't need permission to change your plans. You don't need to explain yourself. When a woman is allowed to live on her own clock, without apology or compromise, something within her strengthens. This quiet autonomy is more than just a convenience. It's a foundation for deeper self-respect. And the older you get, the more precious this becomes. Mental clarity, peace, and purposeful solitude. Living alone as an older woman can be one of the most powerful ways to safeguard your peace of mind. When you're not constantly adjusting to someone else's mood, noise, or expectations, your nervous system gets a chance to unwind. Over time, this quiet environment nurtures a sense of inner calm that's hard to find in a shared home. It's not that being around others is always stressful. But for many older women, especially those who spent years problem-solving for family or at work, the absence of constant external input can feel like a much-needed exhale. In your own home, silence isn't empty, it's restorative. There's less idle chatter, fewer distractions, and none of the emotional tension that can arise from living with someone whose habits or energy don't quite align with yours. You no longer have to read the room, walk on eggshells, or wonder if something you said was taken the wrong way. You can simply be yourself. And that quiet allows your mind the space to breathe. Without the constant hum of someone else's voice, TV, or emotions in your space, you might find your thoughts become clearer, ideas you were too busy to notice begin to surface, and patterns you've lived with for decades start to make sense. What's more, when you live alone, your time truly becomes your own again. And with that time comes something many women didn't realize they were missing: purposeful solitude. This isn't just being alone, it's being alone with intention. Without constant companionship or the expectations of others, you gain long stretches of uninterrupted time. And in these quiet hours, you begin to rediscover the value of simply being. Not doing, not accomplishing, not fixing, but simply existing. This solitude creates a natural space for reflection. For reading that book you picked up 5 times but never finished. For sitting in a chair with a warm drink for no particular purpose. For walking your neighborhood at your own pace, not needing conversation or following someone else's steps. There's something sacred about this freedom. It brings a different kind of richness, one that's based not on activity but on presence. Sarah, a 69-year-old former nurse from Denver, shared that she didn't realize how much tension she carried until she spent 3 full weeks alone after a separation. No arguments, no passive-aggressive silences, just quiet. She said for the first time in years her thoughts felt like her own. This clarity also plays out in your emotional life. You start to recognize which feelings are truly yours, and which were reactions to someone else's. The highs and lows even out, and you stop explaining or defending your choices. Silence becomes a teacher, and in that calm, a sense of control begins to return. Maria, a 68-year-old retired librarian from Texas, was surprised by how deeply she enjoyed gardening after years of avoiding quiet hobbies. She told me she hadn't felt that kind of peace since childhood. That's the power of solitude. It returns parts of yourself you didn't know were still waiting. Of course, some people fear too much quiet will lead to loneliness, but there's a difference between being alone and being isolated. Living alone gives you the option for solitude without the obligation to entertain or conform to others. And that freedom changes everything. Rediscovery of self. One of the most surprising and rewarding things that can happen when you start living independently as an older woman is the rediscovery of who you truly are. After decades of being a caregiver, a partner, a parent, or an employee, it's easy to lose sight of the quieter parts of yourself. The parts that existed long before the titles and responsibilities piled up. When the house becomes quiet and the days are entirely your own, a kind of space opens up, not just physically but internally. You start noticing what captures your attention, which books you gravitate towards again, what music you begin to listen to. You pay attention to the thoughts that arise when no one else is driving the conversation. Many women don't realize how much their identity has been shaped by the people around them until those people are no longer present in their daily lives. And while this realization might feel strange at first, it's also a doorway back to your genuine self, to the deep you that was always there but often set aside for the sake of family, career, or comfort. Carol, a 76-year-old widow from Arizona, once said she couldn't remember the last time she'd painted a picture before she moved into her own apartment. It wasn't that anyone stopped her, she just forgot she loved to do it. A few months into living alone, she picked up a paintbrush again, and that quiet joy returned like an old friend. Living alone removes the constant social mirror that subtly cues you on who to be. Without the need to meet someone else's expectations or adapt to their mood, you can finally ask yourself, what do I like? What do I believe? What have I been missing? Perhaps it's something simple like wearing your comfortable clothes all day or rearranging furniture without asking anyone's opinion. Or perhaps it's something bigger like taking up a hobby you dropped in your 30s, or pursuing a spiritual path you never had time for. You might notice that the food you cook, the shows you watch, and even the way you talk to yourself begins to shift. The absence of constant interaction creates space for curiosity to return. That inner spark you thought was gone is still there. It just needed a little breathing room. There's a quiet pride that comes from this rediscovery. It's not about chasing youth or clinging to old versions of yourself. but about honoring the woman you've become and giving her permission to continue growing. And at this stage of life, growth looks different. It's softer, slower, but no less powerful. Some women take up journaling again, others travel alone for the first time. Some finally feel ready to face old memories and release past regrets. The beautiful thing about solitude is that it doesn't rush you. It simply invites you to return to yourself. And as you spend enough time with that self, something beautiful begins to happen. You become more content in your own company, you stop proving things, you speak to yourself more kindly, and you start to feel at home, not just in your house but in your own mind. In a world that often tells older women to stay strong, stay busy, stay useful, choosing solitude is a quiet act of defiance. It says, I matter even when no one is looking. And that belief can change how you carry yourself in every part of life. Because once you reconnect with who you are beneath the noise, you begin to live not out of habit but from a place of truth. And that kind of life, even lived alone, is never lonely. It is rooted, rich, and deeply alive. Financial control. Living alone often brings a level of financial control that many older women haven't experienced in years. When you're the sole manager of your money, every decision, big or small, rests with you. There are no more negotiations over purchases, no unexpected expenses, or the stress of someone else's spending habits. You decide how much to save, how much to spend, and what truly matters to you. It's not about becoming stingy or overly cautious, but about clarity. Living alone allows you to look at your budget and say, this is enough. And that kind of peace is what many older women say they were missing. Without needing to support someone else's lifestyle or habits, you might find your money stretches further. Perhaps this manifests in smaller grocery bills, downsizing to a more affordable living space with lower rent or utilities, or fewer entertainment expenses. Even small things like cutting subscriptions you don't use or skipping events that once felt obligatory begin to add up. Brenda, an 81-year-old widow from Florida, shared that after moving into a small one-bedroom apartment and starting to live alone, she finally understood where her money was going. She realized she didn't need 3 streaming services, a closet full of clothes she never wore, or weekly dinners out. She kept what was important and let go of what wasn't. The best part? No guilt. You're not depriving anyone, you're simply aligning your finances with your life. This means if you want to spend more on something you love, say quality art supplies, a nice piece of furniture, or travel, you can do so without second-guessing because every dollar is your decision. And this feeling of financial independence often brings emotional benefits. When you know exactly what's coming in and what's going out, stress levels decrease, you sleep better, and you stop worrying about whether someone else is being responsible. You know the answer because it's you. This control can also revive long-term thinking. Perhaps you start investing again, maybe you finally write a will, organize your savings, or create a simple budget that feels more like a source of opportunity than a limitation. It's a chance to guide your financial life with intention, rather than just by habit. And for some women, living alone is the moment they start giving more, not just because they can, but because they want to. Grandchildren's education, helping out local charities. Generosity becomes a choice, not a burden. You also get to define what luxury means to you. For one woman, it might be fresh flowers on the table. For another, it's a quiet afternoon at a museum once a month. The point is, you're no longer trying to fit your life into someone else's budget. You are shaping it around your own values. And when that happens, your money starts to feel less like something to chase and more like something that serves you. It becomes a tool for freedom, not a source of anxiety. Privacy and health management. One of the most underrated benefits of living alone as an older woman is the privacy it provides in managing your health. As you age, doctor's visits, medication routines, physical changes, and even hygiene habits can become more frequent and at times more personal. Having your own space means you can handle all of this without feeling watched, judged, or rushed. When you live with others, even those who care deeply for you, there's often an unspoken pressure to minimize your struggles. You might feel the need to downplay discomfort, hide fatigue, or put on a brave face, just to avoid worrying someone else. But living alone removes that need to perform. You can be fully honest with yourself about how you feel and act accordingly. Take the example of Grace, a 77-year-old woman living alone in Oregon. She recently received a diagnosis of a chronic condition. When she lived with her daughter and her family, she found herself skipping meals or enduring symptoms to avoid disrupting their schedule. But once she moved into her own space, she began to manage her condition more effectively. eating when her body needed it, adjusting her routine, and even taking time for gentle stretches after meals without feeling self-conscious. Living alone also allows you to keep health matters private until you're ready to share them. Whether it's processing a new diagnosis, recovering from a procedure, or adjusting to new medications, it's valuable to have the space to quietly come to terms with it all. You don't have to explain every appointment, every side effect, every pill. You simply focus on getting well. And for many women, this privacy also helps maintain dignity. Some health-related tasks, such as managing blood sugar levels, using assistive devices, or managing incontinence, can feel awkward even in front of loved ones. But in your own space, you can handle them without fear of interruption or exposure. This privacy restores a sense of control. You can design your routines around what truly helps you feel better. Perhaps that means a midday nap, using a heating pad while watching TV, or soaking your feet in a soothing bath without getting questions. You're not conforming to someone else's expectations of what a healthy person should look like. You're listening to your body and responding with kindness. It also becomes easier to organize your medications, supplements, and records. You're free to set reminders, keep things where they're convenient for you, and track your progress without someone else messing up your system. This autonomy makes managing your health more feasible. And let's not forget another point. When you do truly need help, you decide when and how to ask for it. You're not obligated to involve someone in every little thing, but you can build a support system that reflects your preferences. A trusted friend, a neighbor, a visiting nurse. It's your choice. Living alone isn't about neglecting your health. It's about managing it on your own terms. And for many women, this shift transforms what was once a source of frustration into a daily act of self-respect. You stop waiting for someone else to take care of you and realize you're perfectly capable of doing a great job yourself. No emotional burden from others' moods. One of the most understated freedoms of living alone is the ability to safeguard your emotional energy. When you share a home, whether with a spouse, family, or even a roommate, you're constantly picking up on other people's moods, frustrations, and emotional fluctuations. Over time, this unseen weight adds up. Living alone means your home becomes an emotional sanctuary. You're no longer waking up to someone else's bad mood, walking on eggshells, or trying to fix someone else's problem before you've had your coffee. This daily emotional management, something many women have done unquestioningly, suddenly disappears. And it's only when it's gone that you realize how much it was costing you. Christine, a 73-year-old retired social worker from Missouri, told me that after her husband passed away, she grieved his presence, but she also realized what she wasn't missing. She no longer felt the need to smooth over arguments, diffuse misunderstandings, or cheer someone up just to keep the peace in the home. There was a kind of quiet relief she found she needed. It's not that relationships are bad, but constant emotional interactions can be draining, especially in later life when energy is less abundant. Living alone provides a chance to protect the emotional fuel you have and spend it purposefully rather than reactively. You get to decide what enters your emotional space. If the news feels too heavy, you turn it off. If someone's text message feels demanding, you don't have to reply immediately. If a memory brings up something difficult, you have the space to sit with it alone. No one is telling you to move on or to explain it. This also allows you to regulate your own internal world more consistently. Without external emotional noise, your own feelings become easier to track and understand. You start to notice patterns. What makes you feel calm, what causes stress, what brings unexpected joy. This awareness is a gift, and it leads to greater self-compassion. You're not comparing your reactions to someone else's. You're not being told to cheer up or get over it. You respond to your own emotions with the care and respect they deserve. And here's the thing. When you do choose to connect with others, you bring a more stable, balanced presence. You don't show up already drained. You're not compensating for someone else's instability. You simply show up as yourself, clear, calm, and ready to connect on your own terms. For women who've spent decades navigating the emotional landscape of family life, this autonomy can feel unusual at first. You might even feel guilty for enjoying it. But that guilt fades as you realize you're not shutting people out. You're simply reclaiming your right to emotional rest. And that matters. Better sleep, lower blood pressure, fewer outbursts, less resentment. All because you're no longer carrying the unseen burden of someone else's stress. In solitude, your nervous system resets. You laugh more freely, cry more honestly, grieve and celebrate without judgment. And perhaps for the first time in a long time, You feel emotionally safe in your own home. That kind of peace can't be bought, but it can be built one quiet, intentional day at a time. Ability to build selective relationships. One of the most powerful and often unexpected benefits of living alone as an older woman is the freedom to build relationships on your own terms. When you're not constantly surrounded by people out of obligation, you start to realize how many interactions were based on habit rather than genuine connection. Living alone gives you the power to choose who you spend your time with, how often, and in what ways. Here's no pressure for daily entertainment, no unspoken expectation to engage in conversation when you'd rather rest. You become the gatekeeper of your social energy, and this is not just convenient. It's empowering. You begin to notice who lifts you up, who respects your time, and who truly listens. And perhaps more importantly, you notice who doesn't. With this awareness, many older women start to trim the fat. Phone calls that always drain you, visits that feel more like a burden than a joy, people who never ask how you're really doing. Instead, you begin to make space for smaller but richer connections. A friend you haven't seen in years who suddenly feels like family. A neighbor who shares your love for gardening. A conversation with someone at a book club that sticks with you longer than expected. These moments become deeper because you're showing up by choice, not by obligation. This social life isn't loud or crowded. It's intentional. You might meet a friend for breakfast once a week or invite someone over for coffee and conversation on a quiet Sunday. And when it's over, you return to your peaceful space without guilt or tension. Patricia, an 80-year-old who moved to a new city after retirement, told me she used to feel lonely in a house full of relatives. But now, living alone, she found more meaning in one heartfelt conversation than years of superficial chatter. When I talk to someone now, she said, it's because I want to, not because I'm expected to. And for those who are open to it, living alone can even open doors to new kinds of connections. Volunteering, support groups, online communities, walking clubs, anything that aligns with your interests. These aren't just ways to stay busy. They're opportunities to meet people who match your current values, pace, and worldview. And here's what's crucial. Building selective relationships doesn't mean shutting people out. It means honoring the space you've worked hard to create. It's about giving yourself permission to engage only when it feels right. Some women find this leads to strengthened family bonds. When you're not living under the same roof, visits become more meaningful, conversations more intentional, boundaries clearer, and everyone leaves feeling a little more cherished. Others find that the best relationship they've built is with themselves. And upon that foundation, everything else becomes healthier. Friendships, dating, even the way you speak to a grocery store clerk. You show up fully not because you're trying to impress, fix, or save anyone, but because you are secure in who you are. That kind of self-possession is magnetic. Living alone doesn't mean living without love. In fact, it often leads you right to it, on your own time, in your own way, and to the extent that brings peace instead of pressure. And at this stage of life, shouldn't connection be just that? Genuine, respectful, and entirely your choice? Concluding thoughts. Living alone as an older woman is often misunderstood. People might assume it's lonely, that it's a sign of decline, or that it means giving up something. But as we've seen, the truth is often the opposite. For many women, it's one of the most empowering, peaceful, and clear-headed chapters of life. You've seen how it can bring freedom in your routine, peace in your mind, a deeper sense of self, and real control over your finances and emotions. You've learned how it can offer privacy in health matters, space for reflection, and the ability to build relationships that truly matter. So now, I want to ask you, which of these benefits resonated most with you? Which one do you see in your own life or hope to embrace in the coming years? Perhaps you've been living alone for a long time but never realized how much it was helping you grow. Or maybe you're just starting this journey and wondering what it might bring. Either way, know this. Living alone doesn't make you less connected, less valuable, or less whole. In fact, it often gives you the space to reconnect with the parts of yourself that have been quietly waiting all along. Parts that are wise and strong. And it's that inner strength, built in solitude, that often becomes your greatest companion in later life. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your insights are important to us, so feel free to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and inspiration. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue to create quality content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.